Hello, dear friends and everyone. You're welcome back again to Netcode-Hub channel. I am very happy to have you here today. So we do continue on our project that we have started. So if you haven't checked any of them, please check the video description. I have each link pasted over there. And there is the employee management system using .NET 8 Web API and Blazor WebAssembly. So we've been able to talk about creating authentication and also adding reference token support into application, and also by creating an admin dashboard. This is not for only the administrator, but anybody whom the administrator grants him the access to use this, either a user or let's say a manager. You can still have some of the features, but some of the features that you're going to hide from managers, it is up to the admin to see that. That is adding or deleting user. It is only the administrator's rule to do that. So we're going to restrict that to the administrator, but we haven't gotten there yet. So we're going to talk about in this video how to establish one-to-many and also many-to-one relationship in this application. Before I even move further to this, please, you can do any of the following to support this channel and also this project as well. You can subscribe and also hit a notification bell so you never miss out any of the updates or upcoming content from this channel. You can also like this video by clicking on the thumbs up icon. Doing that actually helps this channel grow. And lastly, you can buy me coffee to support this as well. And I will love you so much if you do that. So if you want to do that, please check the description. The link is over there. You can do that from that link. All right, I do offer coaching sessions for people who are interested in .NET technologies. So we're talking about Blazor WebAssembly and Server, .NET Mari Blazor Hybrid, Web API service, and a whole lot. If you want to learn more and also improve your skills, then get in touch. Check the video description, and I have a mail there that you can write me through it. Okay, so let's talk about this. The reason why we have to establish relationship among these models. You know, this is just a project for a company, and I am not actually sure that the company will laugh if they see the document that they gave to me on the internet, okay? But because of the love that I have for you guys, I have to even sacrifice and help you guys understand. So let me just flash it quick and be honest, you can see it. So let's see. From the project design, I want to only show you the diagram, okay? Only the diagram. So I want to check the diagram. You can see that here we have the company, we have general department, we have department and a branch, employees, and with each employee, it's going to have access to vacation table, overtime table, and now the doctor table here, it is the health sector. So, and we have the sanction table. So these from general up to branch is going to be a cascaded style. So we're going to be the cascaded drop down. Let me put it in that way. So as soon as you choose a general department, then the department will be available for you to select. It goes to database and I'll make a search. And also as soon as you choose a specific department, it gets the ID, quickly runs the database, and I'll make a search and I'll retrieve all related data to that department ID and I'll fill it as a branch. So without selecting the general department, a user cannot have access to department. Without selecting department, a user cannot have access to branch. Are you getting it? And now an employee here has a branch. So if I pass in a branch ID of 1, I know branch ID of 1 has a department ID of 2. And now when I go to department ID of 2, it also has a general department ID of 1 or 3 or any number. So we see they are interrelated. That is what we known as relational database. So you need to understand this first before we can actually move on. Else it's going to be a hectic for both of us. That is the reason why I have dedicated this video to help you understand and now establish this relationship. Also, when you have a look with the vacation, overtime, doctor, and sanction, they may have some few properties in common. So in doing that, you know, when you check the principles of developing, you know, normally I do not follow the architectural design. Rather, I do follow principles so I can create my own custom architecture. One of the principles that I always talk about here is a dry. Do not repeat yourself. So there are some properties found in this vacation, also in this overtime, and up to the starting table that we can extract it and create it as an inheritance, so we can inherit it through all these four modules that you're going to be creating. So that is what you're also going to have a look. We did that in the department here. I also go through and I'm going to do the same to this. After that, maybe the next video, when you have enough time, you're going to talk about how do you create generic interface. So we don't want to create, you can see we have a lot of interface to create. Here, we want to learn how to create single interface and use it across all over the repositories. Also, we want to create just a single generic controller, then we can use it across all the other controllers. So we have a lot to talk about, but you're going to be in pieces. So let's first handle the one-to-one and our many-to-many relationship. As I said earlier on, if you haven't watched any of the videos, please do that because they may help you understand this better. Also, with every episode that I do, I put the source code under the video description, so you can just go in there and grab that specific episode source code. So let's say we have done from part 1 up to part 4 or part 5. When you check the update one there beneath this video, we're going to see the source code which comprises of the part 1 to the current part that we are handling. Okay, so you're going to find it over there as well. Okay, so quickly, let's see. So this is what we did. We were able to design this very simple one, adding classes and removing it. There's no JavaScript here. It is just a CSS and a C#. You see, so it's working as expected, as you can see beautifully. Custom. This one is custom made, right? From Netcode-Hub. All right, so and you can see from here too, we have this that we can update profile. But now we haven't. We have only the logout, and which has access to the login and also the registration, and that's what we have now. So let's close this. This is what we're going to talk about today. Let's close this, and now let's start with the models. So when you have the look at our project source code, you can see from the previous video that we created our classes, and these classes, we have the data access layer, and that is the server library. So it contains all the repository, the contract for the server as a repository. And also when you check that is the client library, that is where it has the services for the client. So that's where we make an API calls and I return it to the UI, that is a component. Now, when you check the base library, it is the domain, which has access to our models and our DTOs. You know, one of the principles that I want to talk about here, it is case. Case, K-I-S-S. I know you know the case, not the case that you know. This case here, it means keep it simple, stupid. So keep it simple. So meaning when you create your application, in the source code must be simple for everybody to read. Do not make it too complex or complicated for reading, else you're going to have a problem in future if you want to scale the app, you want to add more features to it. So in doing that, I decided to actually make some slight changes in this. Instead of creating all our DTOs, we want to remove our DTOs here, which are not necessarily needed, and we want to use the models from this entity. The reason is we are not doing database first approach. So database first approach is going to scaffold all the database columns and turn them into models. So if you want to check here and we've applied some properties or some rules such as required and maybe other properties to it, as soon as we apply database first approach, we apply migration, it's going to override that. We're going to clear everything. But here, you know, we are not using database first approach. We are using code first approach. So it means that we are going to perform our migration here, and that's going to affect the database. So in doing that, there's no need for us to create a DTO, in which we have the same properties as we have in the that is the entities, and whereby what we have in entities, we want to display everything to the user. You can create DTOs whenever you want to hide, you want to select a specific properties to the user. But in this case, we want to display everything. Because when we talk about the general department, it has only 3 properties. It has, I think, 2, the ID and now the name. So when you check this base department, you could see it has only ID and now name. And now you want to display this to the user. So there's no need for us to create DTO for this. So in doing that, I have to remove some of the DTOs. Then to make it simple, as you know, one of the principles that is keep it simple, stupid, it is. Okay, so let's try to handle that first. Then we start with our relationship. So let's go in there now. All these account base, I want to remove them with also the base department and this general department DTOs. So I want to remain the custom user claims, and that is what we are using to hold data to prepare data or to set the claims to the authentication. That's delivery authentication. We did this in the part 2 of this series, so you can check that one out. We have a login, and you know login is very important. It's coming from this account base. Okay, so that means the account base shouldn't be deleted. It's supposed to be here, and I have deleted that. So let's get it back. Okay, so for the account base, I think, do I even have it somewhere? And maybe unless I check it out. Okay, so I got it. So this is the DTO from here, and I'll paste this as account base. And now let's see if I could change the name in here. Yeah, that is even the same. Okay, so the account base is there, and that is the base for the login and so the register. Both are inheriting from this because the account base contains these models, and now these properties are going to be used by the login and the register component. Is it the component or the class or the model? Also, we have this refresh token, and as for this, we are not going to edit any. We're going to maintain them as here. So that's what we want to do. We wanted to clear those guys above. We want to clear them. And now let's start to include or create some of these models and add to what we have in here. So as soon as we delete that, you can see we have some issue here that we need to fix. So general department DTO, it is not found. That is when we're trying to create this component in the for video. So instead of the DTO, we are going to use the main boss, that is the DTO itself. So let's see this general DTO, we can have it from this entity. So we have to include this as an entity, and that is all fixed now. Also, let's check this up. Now here too, we need to modify this. So when I'm done with this too, I'll put it, the source code will be available. So check the video description too, and you're going to see it in there waiting patiently for you. Okay, so that's what we need to do. Now we can build this, and let's see if it's going to work as expected. Oh, that's fine. So you can see that it worked, and you can see one succeeded. So 4 updated, meaning you have 5 projects, and that is it. Okay. So let's see how to go about this. And I want to check the diagram that I've shown you. You can see we have a lot of tables that we need to create. And now let's see how to go about this. So when you check the entities here, you can see we have the general departments, and we must have the branch, because when you check, you can see we have general department, we have branch, okay, and we have department itself. Aside from that, we have country, we have city, and we have town. So these are all cascaded, and we must have a relationship established between each of them. So let's first have a look on creating this. Now we have our general department created, which is inheriting from the base entity. So within this base entity, let's try to modify this a little bit. So when you go to definition, you can see it is having, in connection with this, it is having one-to-many relationship, meaning any model that we make a reference or inherit from this base entity is going to have a list of model, which is going to be one-to-many. So with this is what you want to do. You want to remove this first. Then the question is, why am I removing it? We want to have it in a cascaded form. So a user, an employee is going to have a town ID. The town ID also has a city ID. The city ID also have country ID, right? So you can see they are in a hierarchy form. When you talk about the department to the general department, we're going to make a reference to the town. The town ID has in connection with the branch. Not the town, the branch ID has in connection with the department, and the department also has in connection with the general department. So what you need to do here is you need to reference only the base, the bottom one. That is here. When you talk about the city, the country, or the town, you have to make a reference to the town in the database to the employee. And also, when you talk about the department, you have to make a reference to the last one, and that is the branch. So when you do that, it's going to have in a hierarchy form of relationship established between them, and we can drive any data that we want when we start to implement our real logic. So let's have a look. So we're going to make an edit here by removing that list or that link from this base entity. So here we have only the ID and now the name. Now we go back to the general department, and now in here we want to pass in a specific model related to only general department. And now with this, you want it to have a list of departments. It means that one general department is going to have a list of sub departments in it. So let's say we have IT section or IT as a general department. Now we're going to go into IT general department. We have some department inside this IT or any giant department. You have sub departments in it, and that is what you known as a department. So this is a big department which is going to have a list of these small departments. Okay. Now let's also check how to create connection with the department to the general department. So here is a one-to-many relationship with the department. And now when you check the departments, it's going to be a many-to-one. So with that many-to-one, defaultly, here of course is going to create an ID for us. But you know what? We like to specify it ourselves. So we rather want to include the general department, and now there's a general department ID. So this is a link, and we're going to link it together. So anytime that we are filling a department here, we must have a drop-down list of general departments such that when we select the general department, you're going to retrieve the ID, and now this ID is going to be stored in here. So when you check the department table, you're going to have the department name from here, department name, department ID, and also we're going to have the general department ID. Now this general department ID here, it is making a reference to this giant or this parent general department, and in that you can make a search through this general department using the ID specified in this department. That is what we are doing, and you know we are using one-to-many and a many-to-one relationship. So anytime whether you make a reference to this, because we are using the many-to-one relationship, and now in the general department there, whereby you have this list, we are using one-to-many, meaning one of the general departments, we're going to have a list of this department. Okay, that is for this. Now let's have a look with the next one. So once you are done with the general department, let's see with the department itself. Now we have this in here. What of the branch? What can we do here? We're going to have one department is going to have a list of branches. Okay, so let's also have a look on that. So let's create a class. Now the name here is going to be branch. So let's wait then. So that is a branch in here. Okay, so the file name branch is already part of this. Okay, fine. So it is here. Oh, I didn't see it. Okay, so this branch also defaultly is inheriting from this. That is the ID and now the name. Fantastic. Aside from that, we want to have a list of this. So this is a many-to-one relationship to the department, many-to-one relationship in here to the department. Now you can see we have department ID. So many of these branches is going to have access to one department. So that's why you say many to one department. Okay, now let's check the department itself. And also when you check there, what can we do to establish relationship in here? We have to establish one-to-many relationship between the department and now the branch. So go to the department, and now in here we establish that relationship. So one-to-many. So one department is going to have a list of branches. I believe this is cool, right? That's fine. Now let's go to the next one. We have general department, we have department, and then we have branch. So a branch is going to have a list of employees. So one branch is going to have a list of employees. Let's say in Ghana here, maybe I have in Accra. There's in Accra here, you have one branch. Now within that branch, there are a list of people, or we have a list of employees working in this company or at this sector. So this branch is going to have a list of employees. Let's also have this figured out. So you go to the branch in here, and now in there, we need to specify the list of employees as a relationship in there. So what can we do? It's very simple. We establish one-to-many relationship as we did for this department. That is a branch. So we go to the branch in here. Okay. Now here we have to establish it to the employees. So you're going to have one to many. One branch is going to have many employees. I believe this is clear. Thank you. Let's move on, okay? Let's save this and let's check it out. So once we have this created, established, how do you receive it from the employee section? Let's navigate to the employee model. So that's the employee model. Now in here, we want to remove what we have in here. So let's remove this one. So we have the branch. It is a branch. So with this branch, it is just a many-to-one relationship. Because when you check here, many employees is going to have one branch, and we have the branch ID in here. Okay, so we are done with the department. Now let's go to the country, the city, and also that is the town. Okay, so let's have a look on how to also do that. So if we actually go back again, the department has a list. You can see this is dependent. Okay, so this is independent. I think so. It doesn't depend on anybody. There's a inheritance. So you can see it's just having a list of departments. And now when you go to department, it is having this relationship in as many-to-one. Okay, referencing general department ID. And also it's having a list of branches. So when you go to branches, it also has this many-to-one relationship specified in here. Now this branch also has a list of employees. So we have to also make a reference to this employee. And now that's what we have in here. So employee with the branch ID, because making a reference to the branch. That's fine. Okay, so let's see. Now let's go to the town first. But first of all, let's have a look with the country. So let's create a class for the country. So add a class, and the name is going to be country. So we're going to have a list of country. And now within that list of country, let's see what we can do in here. So for country, we can also inherit from the base entity, because country is going to have an ID and the country name. So we inherit from the same base as you've seen and as you know, we've done it before. Let's make this as public as usual. And aside from that, you're going to have relationship. And now this is going to be one-to-many relationship. And you're going to have a list of cities. Okay, so one country, you're going to have a list of cities. Ghana here, and talk about Ghana is a country. It has a list of cities, like it has Accra, it has Kumasi, it has Cape Coast, it has a lot of cities in here. Okay, so that's what it's also doing, and it's a list, so we call it as cities. We have to also create a city class, so we can also accept the relationship in there. So quickly, let's add a class, and we say this is city. So with this city class, what is going to happen? We're also going to have, it's also going to inherit from the same base entity, because city is also going to have name and ID, isn't it? ID is defaultly for the primary key automatically. So by all means, we have to include that. As soon as you want to save it to the database, it's better, or it's a must that you have to add it. So here we're adding just one complementary property, and that is the name. So we inherit from here. And aside from this, since we are making a reference or in connection with the country, we have to also receive this in here. So in the city, what can we do? We need to make many-to-one relationship from this country. So we pass in the country ID. So from the city table, we're going to have country ID. And this country ID is going to represent the actual ID of this country model or object or instance that we save to database as a record. Now here, aside from this, the country, it must also have a list of towns. A country, not a country. So that's going to be the city. Okay. So city is going to have a list of towns. So a list of towns in here. So meaning that we have to create a town model. We have it already in here. So check it out. We have this and inheriting from this, because town is going to have ID and our name. ID is automatically primary key, isn't it? Good. So let's remove this from the top. And now when you go to the city in here, we have a list of town. Now, how do we accept the town? Let's see how to handle this relationship in here. So you must specify city ID in the town field. So where is it? There is a city, town. I'm going to open this, then go to definition. This is a town which has the ID and the name. And aside from that, you must have city ID and now city name. Okay, city ID and now the city object itself, making as a reference. That is the many to one. So as you can see, we are establishing one to many, many to one, one to many, many to one. Okay. Now, aside from that, a town must have a list of employees. So maybe in Accra here, the section or the company that we have, the brand that we have here may have 20, 30 people from this city or from this town. Okay. So we have to also establish that in here. And that's going to be one to many with the employee model. So one town is going to have a list or a lot of employees. Okay, let's remove one of these. Control KD. We can format it well and now save it. Fine. Now, once you have this, let's check the employees field. Now, the employees, so let's check it in here. So you can see we are making a reference to the town and our town ID. So when you check this is making a reference to this town. If I pick this town and I click on pick definition, you can see this town also have a list of city. Now, if I pick on this city and I go to definition, the city also has a list of country. Have you seen? Good. Now, when you check the branch too, the branch has a list. Let me pick definition. It has a list of employee, okay, or department. Now, this department also has a link to general department, as you can see. So you can see it's in a hierarchy form of relationship that we are establishing. So as soon as we pass in the ID of a specific employee, we can retrieve the town. We can, from the town ID, we can retrieve the city. We can also retrieve the country. The same thing applies to when we have access to the branch ID. The branch, we can retrieve the department from the branch. We can also retrieve the general department from the department table using the same ID. So we are creating them and are using a relational database. So we are linking them using the foreign key among them to stick them together as an whole entity. Okay, so let's say we have this done. Let's close this up. The next thing to do here is, we don't want this to be empty. As soon as you decide to start, we want to pass in some stuff in there. So let's specify an attribute known as required. And in that, I'll just have to remove all this and now paste this in here. It is the same thing. Here I have the civil ID, I have the file name, the same full name, job type, address, telephone number, and phone number in here as well. So maybe even here, we can also specify data type as telephone number. Here could be an address, job name, you can specify the minimum, file number, you can specify this as well. So quickly, let's have a look with the data. That is the address, so data type. Then we say this data type dot, and that is phone number. You see, so we have phone number in here, and with the address too, we can specify the same data type. These are all attributes that we can use them as an address. So okay, this is an email address, so we can have. Okay, so here we are not having, this is just a test and it's normal test already, so we don't want to include that. Okay, so we can specify a lot of stuff in here, but for now, let's maintain only this. Now, as you can see, if you're asking yourself, where is the ID, where is the name? It is coming from this entity base. Is it base entity or entity base? So that's the base entity. This base entity has in the ID and our name. So we can make a reference out of it. Remember, do not repeat yourself. So try to create an inheritance, try to inherit from other models. So you make your code very simple, as Kate says. Keep it simple, stupid. Yes, you want to keep it simple as well. Okay, now from this base, we want to also apply some instruction or some this to that. And that's going to be the required attribute. So let's go to this base entity. And in here, let's make it as required and also set this as string to null. You see this, and where is an ID? The ID must be there because that is what each module needs as a primary key. Fine. All right, so we have this. Let's save this. Now let's see the next one to talk about. So we are done with the department. Now let's go to the other tables, and that is the overtime table. When you check the so when you check the table, the diagram that we have, you see we have other tables. So these are what we've worked on. from the employee table, we've worked on this. We've worked on the branch, the department, the general department, and also the country, the city, and the town. So we are done with them. Now let's go to these 4 tables in here: vacation, overtime, doctor, and now sanction. Now we say these tables are related to the employee. Now what does each table take? It takes in the same information or part of the information from the employee data, the employee model, and it adds extra 3 or extra 4 models which are unique to it. So in order to do that, we can extract the common properties and now keep it as a base entity for that too. So maybe since we have a base entity, we can also create one class and I'll name it as other base entity, meaning it is making a reference to the other table, which are the 4 tables that I am talking about, or you and we are talking about. Okay. Yeah, so you're going to have this base entity created, and it's going to hold data for the vacation, the overtime, the doctor, and the sanction table. Okay, I believe we know what it does, isn't it? Vacation is your vacation time. Overtime is when you overwork at the time. Doctor table is when it's about your health setup. Whether you've seen a doctor, you've been given some medications and etc., the dates and etc., a whole lot of stuff. And also the sanction is maybe you've committed something wrong and you are under punishment. So the start date, the end date, the punishment type, and the whole lot we can also specify in there. So now let's create a base model to handle all this. Remember, dry. Do not repeat yourself. Case. Keep it simple, stupid. Okay, so let's follow these 2 principles today. Maybe later on we talk about the other one that is a solid. We talk about that too. All right, so let's create a nice model. And on this nice model, we're going to name it as other entity base. So you can just add new class. And now with this, you say other entity base. Now I'll just have to make these models available. Maybe be asking yourself, oh, we do have these properties already in the employee table. So why are you putting it in here? Yes, we do have. But let's say when we display the employee table, when you display the vacation table, the overtime table, the doctor table, and now the sanction table, the etc., we want to display user data. And this data, we want to actually use the server ID. You see, these are server ID, file number. The user is not going to type in file number anymore when trying to access this table or when trying to fill up data to this table. All that the user needs here is either the server ID or the file number. We fetch the database, we fetch the employee detail from the database so we can provide the other one. So in case you provide server ID, this is going to be a unique, and we can search through that, grab the ID. We can also grab the file number. And in case the person wants to add any other related message to it, can just type that and I'll add the current data. So it doesn't necessarily mean that here we're going to be adding the same data again. No. Provide a server ID, and now we can fetch from the database, from the employee table, and now we have to populate it and now go on our way. So don't worry. When we get there, I think I'm going to make things clear, or you're going to make things clear for yourself. Okay. Based on what you're going to see, you're going to understand that. Okay, so let's move on. Now we have this base entity created for the following table that I just mentioned on. Let's copy this, and we need to create the first one. That's going to be the overtime table. But first, let's have this overtime type. So you're going to have overtime type table created as a class. So this is a type of the this. Now this type is going to inherit from the same base entity because we're going to have an ID and our name. We can clear this from the screen to make it simple. Let's save that. And now with this, let's make this as public too. Save this. Let's create our overtime model. Now we right click on dependencies. You go to the add new class. And it's going to be overtime. Okay, so this is overtime. Now with this overtime, you want to have the following properties, which is going to inherit from this, the default class that we have created. That is the other base entity. So meaning in other base entity, we have about 3-4 properties in here. And now these 4 properties are going to be inherited by this over time. I hope this is clear. Good. Now let's see from here. Let me remove all this to make it simple so it doesn't scare you. You can see we have start date, we have end date. So over time, the start date, the end date, now you have number of days. So in here, you want to grab only days. So this is what the instruction is saying. The company said they want the user to type in, select the start date, and now also select the end date. Now the system must automatically calculate for number of days for the overtime. So in doing that, we do not have to set these accessors against this. It's rather we have to grab the data. As soon as we have access to this, we can calculate it and now append with the date. So here we are extracting the date, and now we want to get a number of days from it. That's the reason why we use the days. I hope it's clear. Now with this, we want to establish relationship as well. Okay, so here it is many to one, and now you want to choose, because when adding overtime data to the table, you must select the type. Okay. I don't know the type yet, but maybe the company knows the type that they want to create. But for now, in the testing section, we're going to add any type to it. Then we can now test it out. So you have to select type before you can add the overtime data in here. And now you need the overtime type ID. So that's overtime with 8 entity. And that is with 8 relationship. Let's go to the next table. And what is going to be the next even table? We can talk about sanction table and our sanction type. So sanction type is going to be the same as what you've done. So right click on this. Let's add a class. Sanction type. And this is also going to have the same ID and our name. So we're going to inherit from the same base entity. It has the sanction class. So let's create that class and establish the relationship between or among them. Sanction class. And now within that sanction class, it is also going to inherit from the other base entity because it is the default properties for all models. So we have to also inherit from that. All right, so you see we have date, punishment, punishment date, and now sanction type. So we can also select that and now you move on. Aside from this, what is the next step? We can also have a look on vacation. So vacation type 2, we can create a model for that. So vacation type. And now within vacation type, we are also going to create the same relationship here with the vacation model. We have to clear this. And now with the vacation, let's copy this. Let's create a class for that vacation. So add a new class, vacation. And now within that vacation class, what can we do? We can specify few properties and also inherit from the base class that we have created. And that's the other base entity. Now in that, what are the properties that we need? We need the start date, the number of days. Now we have an end date. So end date 2, we are going to add automatically and now get the date for the user. And vacation type, and now we establish the relationship that is a many to one and now one to many in the vacation type in here. Okay. Now the next one I'm going to talk about here, it is the doctor's table. So whether you have any medicine, a doctor within your period, we have to create that. I did not actually like the name. I could have made it as health, but well, that is the instruction from the company. So I need not to change it. What programmers do here is you do what I've given to you. And at the end, you have any suggestions, then you can work on that. But for now, let's do what the company says. So let's create a doctor table. And now this doctor table it doesn't have any doctor type. Okay, so it has only the inheriting from this other base. And also, it is having this medical diagnosis and a medical recommendation. So this is what it's having. Okay, so these are the models that we need for this application so far. Well, we are not yet done, so I cannot promise you that this is going to be the end of these models. This domain, maybe we might add more domains. We must remove some of them, but don't worry. Let's leave that one up to you and I. When we start doing it, both of us going to think together and I'll see what you're going to do, whether to add new model or to maintain or remove some of them. Okay, but for now, this is what we have. So you know that since we have created these models, definitely we're going to have in a table form. So in order to create a table, our data sets whereby we have our AppDB context class, we have to make a reference, and I'll use a DB set to call these models, and it's going to use them to create a table based on the name that we specified and the model that we use. So let's see how to do that too. We've done this earlier on. I believe you can do that. So even close your eyes and I'll try it, and let's see. Go to the data access project, and now from the data access, we see we have this AppDB context. Now we specify this, and we are going to let's group this. Okay, so we can see as soon as you have your eyes watch them, you know, oh, this coming from this group, this from this from that. Okay, let's simplify and also group our code once you organize it as well. So we have the employee sitting on top, and that is this employee. We give a space in here. We have all department, and it is the same. So that's an all department. So we can also create space between, and that's an all department here. Let me just group them. All department, it is general department, departments, and our branch. We also, aside from that, we're going to have so maybe here we can have general department, then we can have this department, and now we can have branch. Aside from that, when it comes to this side, what are you talking about? Or what do you think I'm going to write? We have this country. Then we have what? Again, city, isn't it? Then that's right, you've got it. We have town. So we have this too. And now this is going to be the authentication. So here we have just authentication. And this authentication, you're going to have rows too. And we have user rows. And that's the rows as the same as the user rows. We have system rows. Okay, so not the name rows, rather going to be the rows in authentication. Then let's have a look with the other table. So here we have other table, and this other is going to be the vacation. You're going to have the sanction. We're going to have what again? The doctor. Then one left is what? We have sanction overtime. That's fine. Thank you for remembering me. So overtime. So let's have that also specified down here. And within that, we see we have each has a type. So we have this type. We have a type, and there's only doctor which doesn't have a relationship here. Okay. So we established both one-to-many and now many-to-one. Here we are not having many-to-many. It is just one-to-many and now many-to-one relationship. Okay, so this is what we are doing. After doing this, you know what the next thing to do? We have to run this, save this, build this, and now perform database migration to get these models created. But since we are establishing new relationship, I suggest we delete everything, because so we do not have error in writing this, or we can even try this and let's delete it first. So I want you to go to this space where we have the database system. You can try it. Okay, you can try it and see in case it worked, then that's fine. We are not having this here. I'm going to click on this plus. If you're not having, do that. And with the pop-up, choose the local. Now this is my machine, so I choose the security as true. Yes, do trust it. And then click on connect. And that is it. So open it and click on database, and you can see we have this demo. So I open this demo, open tables. So I want to just clean this demo DB, close existing connection, and then clear it out. Okay, so it is gone. And now here to go to the data and our migration, I'm going to remove this. So it's going to be like the app is fresh. It is fresh, like fruits. Okay, so let's see. Now the package manager console, let's start a new migration, but make sure you choose the data access layer. Okay, it's not the client, it's not the server, rather it's going to be the server library. But that's where we have our EF core installed and our AppDB context class as well. So add migration. Now let's make it as first thing. This is going to be the first one. Then -o, that's going to be the output, a data folder, open it, and now create another folder known as migrations, make it simple, and put everything in there. So we're going to create a file and now paste it there. In case we do not have any error, then we're going to apply database migration. That's an update database to turn the code into a real thing that we can see. Oh, okay, so we're having an error here. The specified dev.json. So let's do this. Let's clean the solution and we can rebuild this project again. I'm going to clean it again once more. Let me make sure everything is in order. Okay, so I think 5 succeeded. That's fine. Now I'm going to rebuild this. Do same, okay? So rebuild this solution. Now let's see, restoring some NuGet packages and run this again. And aside from that, we're going to run the database and see the migration. If this is working, then we see. Okay, so it is done. Now let's try again. So let's clear screen and add migration. Let's see. We still have the same issue. So client.dev.json does not exist. So why can't it doesn't exist? Let's see. Debug on this. I'm going to. Okay, so this is what I did. Maybe let me tell you, I just had to close and open the app again, and I did nothing again, close the application and open this again. So if you're having the same issue, then please do that. Okay, pause the video and undo it. But I believe you're not having, because maybe mine could be some errors that I made somewhere else, but not in this video. So let's update database and let's have this created. So this is going to run all the queries that we have specified in here. As you can see, we have a lot of table that has been created. Or this is going to be the code that we have, creating primary keys, creating foreign keys. You can see referential action cascaded. It means as soon as I delete this, this is also going to be deleted and etc. You have all this in here, and that's going to a database. So we're going to have about 20 or more tables in the database. So we say it's still running. As you can see, yeah, that is done. Check it up, and now let's make a refresh to the database folder. Now let's see the current database that we have. Demo employee DB, that's fine. Open it up and now let's check it up. Tables, oh, let's see, we have about 10 or 15 tables. Guess what? Oh, that's right, fantabulous. You can see we have it for branches, for application user up to vacation type. Can just pause the video now and try to count. We're gonna have like 20 tables. Yes, so this is a small application, but I had a lot of tables. So there's no small application, okay? There's no small application. Any application is a scalable one. It's a big one. Okay, so let's say we can just close all this. So once we have all this working, it means we've done with our relationship and we've done with our models. But I think we have enough time. We spent about 48 or 45 minutes now, so we can start working on our generic repository. So this is what you want to do. You can see we have a lot of models in here, from application, from user up to vacation. We have to create interface and generic type for each and every one. Aside from that, we have to also create a controller for each and every one. You can use a generic repository whereby you're going to have a generic interface, you're going to have a generic implementation, and you're going to have a unit of work. Then we can use them, we can inherit from each of them and now use it once and for all. We can also have a generic interface, only generic interface, but we're going to implement the other one's implementation, specify the model, and now inject it, create dependency injection in it, create a generic controller, and now start using. So I want to start from the known one. So let's start with a generic interface. So we're going to create only generic interface and generic controller. Take note, generic interface and a generic controller, but the rest, you're going to implement our interfaces for each and every model that you want to create. Take note. So that's what you're going to do. So once you do it, try to learn how to create generic. If you don't know how to create generic interface, I'm going to teach you today. If you don't know how to create generic repository, not a repository, generic controller too, then I'm going to screw you today. So sit tight, get some water, and now let's move on. So in order to do this, first you're going to create a generic interface which is going to be used for all the model that you have created. These are the basic ones, so we can specify, we can customize each of them in the application. Okay, so let's say from this we can have something from the contract, from the data access layer, that's a server library. You can see where we have this contract folder, we have one already, and that is the iUser account. This iUser account, we want to separate the authentication from the system, because authentication is on its own. We don't want to have any confusion or any issue between our other models and our processes and the authentication. So that's the reason why we are not implementing this generic interface inside, or we are not inheriting from this generic interface. The model has its own interface, and that is what you see as iUser account. So you're going to create a new one, and there's going to be an interface. So take note, I choose a class, but I'm going to pick interface later on from this section. And now in here, let's make this as iGeneric interface. So iGeneric repository interface. This is going to be generic for everyone. You can use this. So let's make this as public, and you can just remove this to make it simple. Okay. Now in here, since we don't want to create it for only a specific model, we're going to make it as T value. So this is going to be T value. It means anytime that you call the interface, you must provide a specific model that you want it to relate. Aside from that, you're going to have these properties. Is it properties or interfaces? Yeah, interfaces. It's very good to use tasks anytime that you want to deal with database. I see a lot of people trying to get access to database. They do not use tasks. When you use tasks, it gives you the access to use an asynchronous, meaning a task will wait for a process to be done before it gets returned. It's very good, and it's a good practice to use tasks. All the time, try to use it. General response is a method, or it's a service response that you and I created earlier on in the first part video. So if I pick this, it has just a flag and the message. That's what it has. Okay. And now here we have a task of get by ID. It is returning just the model. This is getting the list, and that is all. So it gets all get by ID, insert it, update, and now delete by ID. Very simple generic interface. If you have any custom ones, you can create a custom interface and inherit it to the base, that's implementation, and then create that one too. When we get to the employee, whereby you're going to create a custom interfaces attached to this, I'll teach you. Okay, I'll show you how to do about that. So for now, let's stick to this. I hope this is simple for you, isn't it? So pause the video and type them, and now pause it. If you're done, let's move on. Are you done? That's fine. So let's go. Let's keep going. Now, the next thing that we're going to do here is, once you have this in the generic, you're going to create our implementations. So first of all, let's create our general department repository. We can create that. Let me just close the details because we are done. That's the domain. So here, check this. The implementation, you have only one here. We want to add one more. Not one more. We're going to be adding more. Not one more. So this general department repository. So it's a class, and this class is going to inherit from this. It's going to inherit from this, the interface that we have created. Okay. So you can just increase, remove this to clean up. And now with this, it has to implement the interface. So let's implement all of the interfaces. Here we specify the model, and that's the general department. Okay, so in here, delete, get, or get by ID, insert it. What we can do here is, in C# version 12, there's a new introduction of primary constructors. Anytime you specify this is going to be available in the whole scope. So there's no need for you to initialize it again. Very simple one. Keeping your code simple and stupid. That is the case. Take note. So we have this delete by ID. So in case I want to delete, what can I do? First, we want to have two methods. These methods are going to be used often, and that is what is known as dry. Do not repeat yourself. So try to put all methods which can be called often in just a class that you can be calling it all the time. So I'm going to have these two methods down here. These are general methods. That is, in case a model is null, I want to return this. In case it works, everything is successfully done, a process is completed, I want to return this. Okay, it's a new general response that you are returning. Also, I want to have this method that is a commit, because we're going to be using await save changes async all the time. So I don't want to have it in just one class, so I can be calling it all the time. Also, I want to be checking create this. Okay, so let's move on. I'll teach you what to do. Okay, so let's see now from the delete. There's a delete by ID. We're going to supply the ID to this method. Now this method is going to call this repository. That's a context class as a gateway to the database. And now in that, we want to have this simple method in it. This must be an async, so do not forget, because it's a task, so it must wait. Then aside from that, you're going to have this method. So we're going to check for departments. We check if the general find async, going to find it from the table. In case it is not there, it means it is not found. Then return this method. Check down here. That is a method. Sorry, department not found. Very simple, isn't it? Go back again. In case it is, then remove it. And now commit await save changes. Call this. After that, return success. Call this. We are done. Let's move on. Now the next thing here, it is to get all department. And now with this, we can use this lambda expression. This must be an async. I believe you haven't forgotten. So you make sure you add an async to this. We get the data from the database, make it as a list, and I return it to the user. Very simple way. Okay. So using lambda expression, we can close that. And now here we have to use, I think, the EF call. Yes. The next one is the find async. That is find user by or find department by ID. This one. So we can just replace it with this. Getting the ID must be an async, then find async, right? So we're going to be passing the ID. It's going to make a search out of it, and I'll return the response. Very simple. In case it is null too, it's going to return it. The next one here, it is an insert. So if you want to insert it, what can we do first? We can check it. This must be an async, so you have to take note here. Then in this, we are checking check name. So you call this method. This method has to return either true or false. So if it is true, if the object, or when you check the name, you want to skip repetition. You don't want to add department which has already been added. No. So we check the name. The name going in there, we're going to check from database and check if it is there already. Then you want to return. So the method which is going to help you understand this is the method. I'm going to write it down here. So check the name. We pass in the name, and now we check from database if it is there. If it is there, return null. So return null means here this is null, and if it is null, return true. But in case it is not null, return false. Okay. So if it is null, here what we are checking here is if it checks and now it is null, meaning that here the name, the object is not found, and it is going to be true. So if true, then we want to come here. But if it is false, then return this, meaning the data is already there. We want to return this to the user. But in case it is not there, then we add it to the database, we commit it, and then we save it, return this information to the user. That's what we're doing. Now, when you get to the update tool, we're also doing the same for the updates. Let me just grab the update in here. And for the updates, we are just updating it. We also check it and return not found in case it is not. If it is there, we update it. You can see we have only one property in there. That's going to be the name. So we commit it and we return success. Very simple one as well. Okay, that's what we need to do for this module. That's it. We are done. Very simple. Now we save this. You can now close this peacefully. The next thing we're going to talk about here is, you can see we are still implementing from this, isn't it? We are going to talk about the next one. And this is going to be the branch, not the department first. So here, what we're going to do here is we're going to create a department repository for this. So add a class to the implementation. This is going to be department repository. And now with this is what I'm doing. Very simple one. So here, I'll just paste it. It's the same thing, just copy and paste. Now we see department repository, we inject the same thing. And now because we're doing the same thing, just that here we have to change the department table. And we change the table in here, and also we change the object. That's the model itself. That's the only thing that we are doing. The value is the same, as you can see from here. It is the same. So pause the video, and I'll try to do the same thing as well. Okay, now once we are done with this, we're also going to handle the next one. That's going to be the branch. So let's have a look with the branch repository. We also create the same class, add a new class for this branch repository. And I know the branch repository, first thing is going to inherit from the same interface, and I pass in the branch. As you can see from the branch, in this, we're going to specify that is the delete. It is the same. So let's go through one. This is a delete. Aside from that, you're going to have the get all and also get by ID. What it tries to make a search from this get all get by ID. We have it in here. The next thing here we have get response or insert it. So for the insertion, we also want to specify the insert this. You can see we change the branch, and now the module name or the database table is going to be the branch or the branches. Then here is an update. So we have to also make an update in here. The next one here is we need to include the general method that we specified or we do specify in the H method. So this is what I want to do. You can see that here we are making a repetition, but maybe if we use the generic implementation, we could have skipped this. We could only create one structure, then we can be using it all over. But when you get to the controller, we have to also create controller for each. It is the same, but I think that one will be better than this. Don't worry, let's focus on this, okay? There are several ways to do it. Maybe the next project that we're going to be doing, when we have it in a large quantity, we're going to learn how to use the generic repository, which comprises of the generic interface and the generic implementation with the unit of work. We're going to learn how to do that. But for now, we are having only generic interface and we are having generic controller. That's the other thing that we are having now. Okay. So this is also working. We are done with this peacefully. We can close this. Yes, so that is this. Okay, so let me increase the size more. Now save this. We can just close this. The next thing that we're going to do here is we are going to work on, we have the branch. So we have department, general department, we have branch. Okay, so we have the next one as country. That's going to be the country section. So let's have a country repository. So I'm going to add this class. No, it should be the implementation instead. So country repository. Now let's add this. Now it is the same thing that I'm going to do. So I just have to grab this and I'll paste it. Okay. Just I change it to countries. That's going to be the table name countries. And that is it. Change this and now and off you go. Okay. So that's the country repository and this is the country repository. It is the same. So why am I having this? Just that maybe I did not specify this in the database. So let's check it out. From the AppDB context, do you have country, city, country? Oh, okay. So you see, I hope maybe you've done the correct thing, right? I forgot this. So let's make a duplicate of this. There's going to be country. Then in here, you're going to have countries. Then you have city. And here it's going to be cities. Okay. Then I want the town to be last one because the town is going to be the smallest among all. So let's have this. Okay, so let's save this. Go to the repo and I think it is working perfectly as you can see from this. Okay, now let's update perform migration so we can have those also created. So in here, add migration, add country and city. Update database. So here, let's update the database. Yeah, so this is also done. Now, when you check repository, we have to get that. If you want to check a database, I did not check that. So if I refresh this, I have to now get the countries and now the cities in the towns. I have it here. Cities and now countries. That's fine. I get them. I believe you also have the same, isn't it? Now let's also create a next implementation, and that's going to be the city. So now we have country, we have to add a new class as implementation, city repository. And now within that city repository, we want to have it as a city. So the same thing, can just make a copy and paste, and now we move on. Okay, the same thing. So here, just I have to change the city, as you can see from here, and you change it. The models are cities, you change them, and also the database is cities database. So you have to also change them as well. Okay, let's see the next one, and you can even pause the video and then try this yourself, because I believe you can do that, isn't it? It's very simple too, and I trust you that you can make this work. We have city, we have town. Have you created the town repository? Not yet. So let's quickly do that too. So town repository, and within that town repository, it is the same. So you don't have to waste time here. I believe you're also doing same. So you just have to copy and paste it, and it's the same as you know. Commit, submit. You see the same thing, the whole stuff. So you shouldn't waste time here. So now we have these repositories created. They are inheriting from one base generic repository interface, and that is the generic repository interface. So the next to do here is let's go in there and create our generic controller. Okay. Later on, we're going to add the rest. Okay. But for now, let's maintain this. Let's go to the server where we have this controller. We have authentication controller already. So we need to create the controller for the tables or for the repository that we have created. Now, the first thing to do here is we're going to create a generic controller. So how can we create the generic controller? Let's go to controller and I click on this, and I will choose add a new controller. Choose an API, empty one. The name, make it as generic controller. Click on add. So with this is what we are having. We need not to inherit from this. We want it to inherit from that. So you can see from here, check what is happening. Generic controller, it is accepting of a T value. And now we are injecting this interface. You know, this interface needs a T value. So that you specify the T value in here. And now we create an instance of this. So defaultly, or the normal way here, we are using a primary constructor. Okay. If I click on this and I click on let's say create and assign this, we could actually create a constructor and assign it, but I think this is the best one. So let's keep ourselves updated. So this is what we are using. So it means we are injecting the interface that's going to pass here must be a generic. So it means you can be using this controller for any type of model or the repository that we have created, where T is a class, and I believe you know that. Okay, so in here we are going to have our HTTP GET, and now we specify the route as all. So get all, and it's a task of action resolves an interface too, and get all. So we say repository.get all, because we have this get all from this repository. So we get all. And now this depends on this interface based on the T type that we're going to specify. Aside from that, you want to have the delete. And now with the same thing, we can now have the delete in here with just an interface. So we see from this, we have this. We're checking if the ID it is less than or equal to 0. It means the ID is invalid. You want to return bad request. But in case it is working, then you want to return OK with the response of this get by ID or delete by ID. And that's going to be the delete. Now, when you have a look on the next one, that is a get by ID. We're going to make it as single. So get by ID, as you can see from this. And here we're going to supply as a parameter as ID. And in here, we'll do the same thing in here. So maybe we can check this. We can create this in private model in here. And now we can just return. Okay. But for now, let's maintain, because you have it only used twice here. You want to return OK with this. The next thing here is the addition. In case I want to add a new data to this, you can see we specify the T model in here, because this is a generic, so we are not making a specific model name. We use a T value to check the T type to check that. And now if it is not, then return this. But in case it is not, then insert it to the database based on that type that we're going to provide. And the last one is the update. So in case I want to update this, I can also use the same thing in here. So update it, and I can call this update to update the model from the generic repository interface. And now it is inheriting from this. The payload is a T model, which has the iResult interface to handle that. Okay, if it is not, to return this. So this is our generic interface that we are creating. This is the interface, generic controller, not the interface. We are done with the interface. Take note. Don't let me confuse you, please. This is the generic controller. Interface is what we've done already. Okay, so fine. Now we have this. So what we're going to do next here is, in order for us to have access to the department, the general, the city, the country, we have to create a separate controller so we can inherit from this generic interface. So let's do that as well. So we go to, let's tackle with the generic or the general department controller. Let's create a controller for this. So API empty one, and now the name here, it is general department controller. So paste it here, general department controller. Click on add. Now what you need to do here is, you don't need to write anything. Okay, just inherit from the interface, and that's all. Very simple one. Yeah, this is very simple. So all the time you're trying to make it simple and stupid. Keys, yeah, very important. So see, this is what I'm going to do here. I just have to, this is the name. Here I'm using a primary constructor. So I pass in the interface, and the interface needs a T value or a T model. So pass in the value in here. And aside from that, we create an instance of this, and now we pass this instance to the base of this. So you can see inheriting from this generic controller, and now we pass in this model. So repeating the same model from here and now from this, and now passing this to the base, and that is all. Okay, so in case you need extra customized endpoint, then you can specify this here. Okay, but for now you want to have only the ones that you have specified. So let's save this. Let's do same to the others as well. So the next one is, you're going to have the department controller, and now with that department controller, let's also create same API empty. The name is department controller, and now with that too, we are also doing same to this. We change here to department, and that's what I have to do. Save this. Let's go to the next one, and it's going to be the branch controller. Right click on the controllers. Let's have the next one. So I believe you can do this. So pause the video and now do it. Once I also do it, let's see who finished first. Okay. So branch controller, you're on a top speed. So let's see who just finished writing all this first. So we have this, and that is it. Because you pass in the branch and then the branch, and that is all. Now we are done with the department. So we go to the others, which are they? Do you remember? Country first. So country, let's do that. Country controller, and you're going to the same thing. So anytime we want to add any or extra interface or customized interface, we add it here. If it is not going to be used by all the interfaces, all the repositories, then specify it here. Okay, that's going to be the endpoint. If you want to have an endpoint which is going to be used by all the controllers, put it in the generic one. But in case you want to have it a specific or limited one, put it to the specific controller that you have created. Okay, so let's see the next. We have a country. Let's have the city. So add this to controller API. Now let's see from the city controller, and now we're doing same here. Nothing changes. It is the same thing. Passing city model, and that is all. Let's see from now the last one here is the branch. Oh, we have branch already. Okay, is the town. I think so. You're not done with the town, so let's have a look with the town too. We do the same. And now here too, what we're going to do here is we're going to make the same copy and paste. Copy and paste is so sweet. You don't need to type, copy and paste everything, and off you go. Okay, so now that we have all this, what is the next thing to do? I think we have almost 1 hour 40 minutes to spend that, so maybe we're going to be ending this session soon so we can continue next. But I want us to run this and make sure that it's running before we can close this up. We need to register this and create dependency injection among them. So let's go to the program.cs file in the server. And now in here, we need to register each and every one. So I'm going to grab all this down here. Where you have this, let's register them. So we are registering. You can see you're passing the generic proprietary, passing the model, passing the model, passing the model. Now you see they are inheriting from the same generic proprietary, but they have a different model and are passing the corresponding implementation. This is a very simple thing that we're doing. Now it is saying this has a problem. Why? It is inaccessible due to age protection level, meaning that we did not change from internal to public or private to public. Did you do the same? Let's have a look. Yes, I believe we did not, or you followed me. Okay, so we have it set, and that is all. So now let's check it again. And not set and done. So let's save this. Let's run this. The server is already set up. Let's run this application and let's test the API. You're going to have access to all the, I think, 6 endpoints that we can have access to: general, department, branch, country, town, and now city and town. Let's have a look. All right, so we have it in here. Let me increase the size here so we can see it well. Okay. This authentication, branch, city, country, department, general department, town, weather forecast, home. Just for testing purpose. Okay, so this is what we have. Now let's check the scheme. Now the schemas tell you what it has. Now let's first check the branch. If we see the branch has an ID and our name, it has connection to the department. You see, if I click on department 2, department has ID and our name, it has connection with general department. So if I click on this too, it has ID and our name. So you can see, have you seen the hierarchy of it? So the branch here, we can retrieve the general department from the branch by getting the ID of this department, searching through this, and then getting the branch ID of that specific record. We can get a department ID. Fine. Check the city too. It is the same. City has country. Country has, that is it. Where is the town? So we must have town in here. Or we did not establish town, isn't it? Let's have a look. So we have country must have a city. When you check this, a branch must have department must have general department. So a town must have city. The city must have country, but we did not do that, right? So let's check that one up quick. Let's check the models, entities. Then let's see from the town. So from town, it has city, it has list of employee in here, city ID. Let's check the town. So we have city here, everything is here. This working. Check the town and then see it must reference city ID and our employee. Okay, so that is it. Now let's check back again and see. Maybe I did not see it well. Okay, so you have city. Let's close it again. So here we have the city. Then from the city we have country. Okay, so from country we have this country. Do you have town in here? So country. Okay, so we have towns. Click on this here. That's it. So we have town, and I have town ID and also city ID. Now if I click on this, city, employees, you see, now there's the employees. So we see the relationship that is going from country to city, from city to town, from town to employee. An employee also has branch. Now branch also has department. Department also have general department, as you can see. So that is the order. Now when you check, the same thing applies to this. When you check the employee too, it is the same. You see the employee has a branch, it has a town. So from branch, you can have department, you can have general department in here. From town, you can have city, you can have what country. You see? So that's what we have in here. Okay, now let's test our endpoint here and now check things up and see. So from the branch, if I click on branch, get all, try this out. Now let's see. Okay, so you can see, yeah, it is working. It is empty. Let's add one. So add this. Now all of this, you see these are dependencies, and we're going to remove everything and leave only this. Okay, so I can just copy this, click on execute, and now let's see if we're going to make success. Oh, we have an issue here. It is saying that an error occurred while saving the entity changes. So see the inner exception for detail. This conflict occur in database. Insert statement conflicted with the foreign key constraint. Okay, the conflict occurred. Okay, so column with an ID. So let's have a look first and see how to solve this. Let's go to this table and let's see the country. That is, was it the city or which one? So this is branch, right? So let's have the branch. So where is it? There's the branches, view data. And we must have the ID, department ID. Yeah, we did not provide department ID. So it means we have to provide the department ID. Now, before we add department ID, we must add department itself so we can have the ID to this, because it is dependent. It is depending on that. So let's see. Now, department, where is it? We close this general department. That's the first part. So let's try this out. You can just copy and paste this. So this is, let's say this is general. Department name. Let's click on execute this, and I can see process completed. So I can even copy this. Let's go to get all, execute this, and we have it in here. You see department is null, but we have the ID. Then if I click on delete this, passing the ID of 1, let's see. Yes, success. Now click on all, empty. Let's add this again. So here, add this again. The ID is going to be 2. So let's see, get by ID. Let's pass in 1. Once you know the thing is 2. We have what? So 204, we did not handle that. Maybe later on we're going to handle that. But when you pass in 2, we have the data in here. Okay, so let's go to the department and now add this. So we come here, this is general, we are done. The branch, we must have department first. Okay, so this department, let's have add department, and then try this out. So we have a lot of these guys here. So we need to add only general department. So we can just close all like this. Then general department here, it is 2. So take notes. Now let's save this and see if it's going to work. Okay, so it is saying that the JSON value could not be converted to this. One or more validation error occurred. The model field is required. The department, and let's see, name is a string and ID is this. The department is 2. I think this will work. What do you think? So this is an ID. Okay, so let's see. Execute this. And I think, yeah, so it completed. Maybe we did not include the department ID well. So we have to get this. Now, as soon as I click on execute again, you can see we have department already added. So it means we're able to add the department. Now let's go to the fetch all department, and let's try this out. And you can see we have department ID here of 2. We can also, we have branches as null and our general department as null, but we have the department ID in here. We have the branch, the department name. When adding, so this one, the ID is 1. When adding the branch, we have to also add department. So let's see. So try this out. This is a branch. Now this branch, if I click on execute this, you're gonna have error here. So let's reset this. And now when you check this one, we have to remove all this because here we need department ID. So department ID, this is a department ID. This is general department ID. You're looking for branch, and branch has to get department ID, not the general department. So we're going to have to use this one. So we're going to clear all this, maintain this, and I remove this one, and I'll clear the rest. So department ID is 1. Let's click on execute, and now let's see. Yes, you see process completed. Now when I click on get all branches, try this out. You can see we have department ID as what? 1. Now you can see, and we have employee as null, and that's the ID 3. So you can also do same to the rest. Now when you go to the country 2, you can also add you can also add country first. Let's see. So if I want to add this, country must be the first thing to be added. Then aside from that, you can add city and etc. So here too, you can also do same. Let's try one more and see. So I'm going to remove all this. And now here, there's a country. So I'm going to use, let's say this is Ghana. And then click on execute. Like you see, saved. The ID is 1. If I want to add city, I must provide country name, country ID. So this is a country. I must clear this, remove all these, and now I must provide country ID as 1. After that, I must remove all this, then remove this trailing comma, execute this, and I can say this is done. Now if I want to add city, I must provide the country, the city. If I want to add town, I must provide the city ID. So from here, come to the city. No, that is a town. Where is it? The town must be in here. So town, and add, and here I must provide the town ID. So with all these, I have to remove all this. And now where can I get the city ID? I think it must be here. Department, branch, city ID will be around here. Let's see. So that's city ID. So remove all this. Then the city ID. I'm going to remove this too. Then you have city ID as 1. Click on execute, and I can see it being completed. So you can now click on get all, try this out, and now you can have access to, you can see we have city ID as 1, the town ID is 1, and that is the name. Employee and city, they are all none now because you have not added the include statement. Also, when you check this country, get all country, you must have Ghana in here. And when you check that's the country, when you check the city too, you must have the city ID and the country ID as well. So you can see they are linked together, and because of the relationship that we specified as 1 to many and many to 1 as well. So we're going to end here for this, and in the next video we're going to talk about how to create the next one. I believe you can do that. You're going to create a next repository for each and every vacation, overtime, doctor, guess what? I've forgotten. So they're going to create for the rest, and they will create a respective controller. We're going to also inherit from the same generic controller as you've done. So we're going to handle that in the next video. So thank you guys for watching. If you want to support this project, you can buy a coffee for this channel, and we would love to take it. Thank you so much in advance for doing that. You can also subscribe to this channel and also like the video in case you've learned something from this and you like us to move on with this.